Welcome to the We're Not Blowing Hot Air podcast, powered by Oxygen Plus, featuring amazing athletes and wellness-minded individuals who share how they elevate their everyday lives.
On this episode of We're Not Blowing Hot Air, we chat with CrossFit warrior Logan Ewing as he shares with us the rise to becoming an elite athlete and how high elevation and Oxygen Plus have helped him succeed in his CrossFit journey. Hey everyone, welcome back. Welcome back to episode 6 of We're Not Blowing Hot Air. Hello, Lauren. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic, Ben. Thanks for asking. How are you?
I'm doing swell.
All
It's almost fall, and I'm really excited to start seeing colors. And it's a great season coming up.
Can't wait. Love the changes we get in Minnesota.
Yes, we really do get the 4 seasons. So it's always exciting. I'm really excited today because we have a really cool guest today with us, Logan Ewing. He is a CrossFit athlete, and I'm really excited because I've heard a lot about CrossFit, but I've never gone to a gym. I've only heard just great things about it, but I'm really curious to kind of pick his brain and ask some really cool questions. So
I love it. I'm enough to be dangerous. I do know that it's called a box. Is that still true? Not a gym?
Oh yeah.
With that, Logan, why don't you say hi to everyone, and then we'll get into the nitty gritty of CrossFit.
Yep. Just like you said, CrossFit athlete, have been for a long time now. I'm 21 years old right now, but going on 8 years now. So
wow. Is that a dream for a lot of people? Everyone wants to go to the gym, right? But is it something different of I want to go to a CrossFit gym?
Box.
Yeah.
Box.
It's becoming a little more like that. There's some people maybe a few years, 2-3 years younger than me that grew up wanting to do CrossFit. I watched actually the guy whose gym I train out of, I watched him for the first time when I was 8, watched him win the games. So I kind of grew up idolizing him, but still baseball was my focus for a while. And then in high school, kind of was I got injured, so I couldn't play baseball anymore. And I was like, well, I'm pretty good at CrossFit. Maybe I could try. And then they added a teenage division, and I was like, cool, this is perfect timing. I'm going to try to make it there. But yeah, I mean, now there's more of a generation that's even only 2 years younger than me that's coming up that has only done CrossFit since they were 10 years old. There was a girl at the games this year she was 18 and she was 17 and she made the adult division, and she's been doing it since she was 10. So
that's crazy. That's insane.
It used to be that people that even kind of people my age, it used to be that if you made the games as a teenager, you were doing CrossFit for another sport.
Yep.
And just happened to get really good at it. Whereas now, if you're in the teen division competing, that's what you're doing.
Wow. Well, I mean, obviously we'll kind of dive into that in a little bit here, but the first question that we always like to ask is how do you O+, and how do you, use our product to really elevate yourself, especially in CrossFit or in anything else that you're doing?
Yeah. So for me, I kind of just more so use it as an inhaler. So this year they came out and said that for our drug testing and everything, the organization that does that, we can't use inhalers unless you go through the process of getting it approved, which is, from everybody that I know that did it, is not easy. And for me, I'm more of a seasonal, it's more, I'm allergy induced asthma. So
for sure,
I don't really have it per se. Some days I could really be struggling, but 90% of the time it doesn't bother me. So the chances of me getting approved were slim to none, which makes no sense. Cause in my opinion, an inhaler doesn't do much. It definitely doesn't. It's not a performance enhancer.
Right.
But for me is all right, I need something to help make sure I can clear my lungs and breathe a little better. And then
yeah, for sure.
Perfect timing when I found out about the inhaler is when I got the product from you guys to tried it out. Didn't use my inhaler for a week, used it every day. And I was I'd use it before a workout, before I went to the gym, and my airways felt a lot clearer. And then after I'd finished the workout, just take a puff. I don't know what we call
a
it.
hit. Yeah.
Yeah, take a hit. And that seemed to help recover a little bit quicker out, like especially my lungs after a workout. And
for sure.
Just since then, that's kind of just been my protocol. I mean, if I'm having a rough day, like a cough or something, I'll just have it sitting by me and just,
that's awesome,
whenever I need it.
Wow. So I just have to back up a minute.
Mm-hmm.
What was the organization that said you can't use it for asthma? Like you have to get a medical asthma type inhaler approved now in CrossFit?
I think they use WADA. I don't remember which organization they use, but apparently that's kind of how it's par for the course now, is that's you have to be approved.
Have you heard of that, Ben, and other sports?
I mean,
that seems absolutely like the dumbest thing. This is Lauren saying it,
right? So
not anyone else on this podcast, but I think that is one of the most short-sighted, harmful moves of whatever organization that is.
I mean, it's like inhalers anybody that takes an inhaler knows that it doesn't boost your performance. It just keeps you.
It helps you, because there's people that actually need that, and so for them to say, oh yeah, you can't use it because it's performance enhancing. It's like, okay,
well,
I don't know.
I'll just let that lie. But I will say, I mean, yes, like people who have asthma, like they need it. It's a bronchial dilator. It opens up your vessels so you can deliver more oxygen to them. And that is a very scary thing.
Especially with CrossFit and like that high intensity, like I guarantee you're really like out of breath. You're really working hard. I don't know. I don't know how I could do that if I wasn't able to use an inhaler and I really, really needed it.
Yeah. Well, I will say, we'll go in a positive direction with this,
for sure,
Logan. So you're not like, wait, why aren't we talking about CrossFit right now? There is a lot anyone with a compromised breathing issue can do with breath work, and to really to turn the needle. And I'll pitch James Nestor's book, Breathe. It's something that everybody should pick up and look at, and everyone should have a breath life, in my opinion, because 80% of us don't breathe correctly in the US. And that alone can change a lot of things. So, and by the way, the book does talk about supplemental oxygen and breathing it, and James Nestor, he makes a case that it doesn't really do anything, but it's in the context of not knowing how to breathe properly. So I will just be really forthright about that. If you come across that in the book, like there's definitely more to supplemental oxygen and how to breathe it, and when that it can make a difference. I mean, pollution in itself, high elevation in itself, there's a demand that gets placed on your body that is greater than what ambient air can deliver. That said, breathing and breathing well and having techniques to even instigate things that so your body can have more carbon dioxide delivered as well as oxygen. Those are the things that you really need to work on. And that's why we say exhale and hold your exhale before you breathe in, because it gives your body a lot more ability to capture the carbon dioxide, and so you have a hunger for the air before you take a deep breath. So, but I think breathing is such an important thing. It's the reason why Oxygen Plus was founded. So I just I had to take a little soapbox there, Logan.
No, you're good.
And so I'll just leave that at that. But I will say we have studies that show Oxygen Plus helps reduce lactic acid buildup by 24% in studies. And we also have there's Spurlick, 2011 did a test about how it helps improve physical performance. There's proven to have faster recovery in between exercises by a study in 2013 by Aswadane. I'm saying that wrong probably. And then also endurance, which is important in CrossFit, right, Logan? You can train longer, and that's White and al. Did a study in 2013 about it. So there's myriad research about supplemental oxygen, but the key thing is how and when to breathe it. So,
for sure,
yeah.
That's interesting too about the lactic acid, because I would say in CrossFit, a big thing about being good at the sport is being able to clear lactic acid. Like if you can't clear lactic acid, you're screwed, because you're going to go to failure within a movement. And if you can clear it, and you can train your body to clear it, you'll be in a much better place.
Yeah. Well, great. And I do know WADA 1 year, maybe like 7 years ago, they banned supplemental oxygen. The next year it was off the list. So now WADA doesn't approve. It's the worldwide anti-doping agency. They don't approve anything, but they just ban.
Right.
And that's how they work. So, I mean, shout out to WADA for keeping supplemental oxygen
for sure.
not on the banned list. It's where it deserves, because people deserve to breathe easy. So.
Oh, for sure. Yep.
All right. Okay, Logan. All right. Thank you for bearing with that. But it is at the core of who we are and what we do. We want to teach people how to breathe better and give them something to breathe better. So,
no, that's fine.
So you're at high elevation. You live in Colorado right now, at least. Is that ever anything that you have to adjust for in CrossFit, or is that an advantage that you found when other people come to compete at higher elevation in your games?
Definitely an advantage if they have to come here. I mean, actually, it's just an advantage in general. So like this past year, in January, I moved to Tennessee, but I still spend a lot of time here. And 6 days after I moved, so I was still acclimated to Colorado, we went and competed in Miami. And my 2 teammates were also from Colorado. And when we were on the Echo bike, which anybody that's ever rode an Echo bike, they suck. Like you're trying your hardest to breathe and you just can't. In the middle of that workout, we're on the Echo bike and we're kind of just like looking around like, this isn't too bad. Like we're breathing fine. Everybody else is dying on it. And not that we're amazing on the Echo bike or anything. It's just, we're able to breathe because we're at sea level. And then like, there's been a few times, like there's not a whole lot of big competitions in Colorado, but there's one in particular that has a pretty big draw. And one year there were, I'm trying to remember where they were from. There were some athletes from out of state that came in and they wanted to cash in on it. Cause like notoriously Colorado doesn't have like any super, super high level athletes, like no real games threats or anything like that. And so they'd come up because they're like, oh, easy money.
Yep.
They got destroyed. And it's not because it has nothing to do with like their fitness level. It's just they couldn't breathe. Like they were dying, they were huffing and puffing. And then it's like, oh, okay. It's a different ball game up here. And like, that's how it is like at the gym. Like when there's people that come from out of town that they may think they're pretty good.
Yeah,
like
for sure.
Maybe they're good for where they're from, and then they come to our gym and like they're just getting killed on an easier workout because they just can't breathe.
Yeah, and that is it. Our oxygen's a good quick fix for that. But also, James Nestor in his book Breathe, he talks about how even at sea level you can have hypoxic training, like without oxygen training, to actually get that same level that you get at training at high altitude. So it's kind of interesting. Like there's like the best runner in the world. I can't remember who his name is, but he was at sea level, but did this like deep breathing training. So I just think I think you're onto something here, Logan, with how you're so aware of it for CrossFit.
I think kind of getting back into your background story, we would just love to kind of just let us know who you are and kind of, obviously you do CrossFit, but, give us your background story of kind of maybe how you got into it and kind of where you grew up and stuff.
Yeah. So I've lived in Windsor, Colorado my whole life, which is a small town near Fort Collins, about an hour north of Denver. Just been here my whole life, really. I mean, kind of just Colorado. That's all I really know. I mean, and around 2010, maybe my dad found CrossFit, and that's back when nobody knew what CrossFit was.
Right.
And just saw him at the gym. The gym was pretty close to our place, so I'd ride my bike over there in the summer, just hang out. And then my brother joined the next summer, my older brother. And just seeing like the bond that they had through it, it was like, oh, that seems cool. Like I want to do it. So my dad, when I was like 10 years old, he would start writing me workouts because he put a gym in the basement for my mom to use. So he'd write me workouts. So a couple times a week, I'd do some CrossFit workouts, just nothing, like no real weightlifting because body's not developed yet. So the rule was once you turn 13, you can start going to the gym and start like lifting and learning all that stuff. So my 13th birthday, I was like, hey, you know what this means? So then I was going every day.
Wow.
It was me and my brother would go every day. In the summer, we'd go at like noon, and then during school, we'd go after.
Okay.
And so just really started enjoying CrossFit, but it was even then, although I kind of wanted to do it forever, it was more of a training tool for baseball, because baseball was my thing.
Okay.
I was pretty good at it. I was a defensive catcher, and that's not a thing anymore. Nobody plays defense anymore. They'll just play offense.
Yeah.
So kind of had high value because of that, and wanted to stick through it, see if I could make it to the pros. And then my freshman year, broke my elbow, and just took too long. I think probably took a month before we went and got it looked at. So I was still playing baseball, still doing CrossFit, and I damaged it so bad that it was hard to come back from. Like, I got a screw and a wire put in it, and played that summer, but I came back too soon. So I did a lot more damage to it then. And then that fall, I had to get the hardware taken out. There was some issues with the bone overgrowing, and then just was supposed to be good to go. I mean, in the middle of the winter, but not that we'd be playing. And then like middle of the winter rolled around, and I still didn't feel too good. I was still able to do CrossFit like uninterrupted. But just throwing hurt. And then spring rolled around, and I was like, I don't think I can, and ended up not being able to. Went full steam ahead for CrossFit. My best friend, he and I were training together. He made the games that year. He's a year older than me. So he made the teenage games that year, and then I missed it by one spot. So I was pretty devastated by that, but then kind of realized like, hey, like, this isn't something that you can just casually do if you want to be good at it. It's like, you got to really dedicate everything towards it, and then dedicate everything, made it the next year. And then pretty much from then on out, it was like, this is what I want to do. Like, I know this is what I want to do. I need to make sure everything I'm doing is geared towards this. And then graduated high school, stayed here for the first 2 years of college, first 3 years of college. How long have I been out? Yeah. First 3 years of college. And was able to train out of the gym my dad owns, and then kind of just overgrew it because I don't really have anybody to necessarily train with there. So I was alone every day. And the program I follow is out of CrossFit Mayhem, which is, anybody in the CrossFit space knows CrossFit Mayhem. It's best gym in the world, biggest gym in the world. They train champions there. And so I went and checked it out about a year ago and decided that was best for me, and moved there. So spend the season there, and then get to come home to Colorado, spend some time here in the off season.
Awesome.
Yeah. So this is your full-time job. You have no other gigs?
I'm still a student also.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this can be, I mean, this is a career for people now. I don't know if I knew that I knew.
Oh yeah. There's over the last, I'd say 3 to 5 years, maybe more so towards 3 years, it's really become professionalized. I mean, ever since like 2011, if you're like a podium contender, you can make a living. But now it's like, there's guys and girls that aren't going to make the games ever that can make a living out of it. So
very cool.
And I'm sure with, deals and sponsorships, I bet that's another huge added bonus.
Yes, that is a big bonus of it.
Cool.
Yeah. I mean, years ago, when it was around 2010, Oxygen Plus had a presence with some of the CrossFit players. It was definitely in its infancy. It was before any sort of games or anything like that were happening in Southern California. But was Southern Cal, is that where the epicenter of CrossFit happened? And can you speak to kind of the leadership too now that exists, and how kind of it all fits and works together within your world?
Yeah. So, I mean, CrossFit was out of California. It was all through California. Like, the games were in Carson. But I don't remember where HQ was. I think it was in Northern California was HQ. So like where the CEO and everybody, it was all up there. But it was all through California. It started on this guy, Dave Castro's ranch in also Southern California, I believe. So the presence is pretty big out there. And then 2020, company sold to actually a guy that I've known since I was like 13 out of Boulder. So now they've relocated CrossFit HQ to Boulder, Colorado.
Oh, wow.
So now its presence is a little bigger here. Just 'cause I think Colorado is a good state to have it in because it's a very active state. Like it's the fittest state for a reason, because everybody here is very active. So it seems to be growing since then. They brought in some more like tech company type guys, like these real true businessmen to start growing the company. And yeah, I mean, it's just changed over the last 2 years because of that. But it started in California and now it's in Colorado.
Yeah, and wasn't it Reebok really put you on the map?
Yes. From 2011 until last year, so 2011 to 2021, Reebok was the title sponsor of the games. They were able to put CrossFit on their shoes. So like the Reebok Nano is the original CrossFit shoe. And it was Reebok CrossFit for a long time. And so that kind of blew the company or blew CrossFit up, made it a little more well-known because that was when they were still partnered with the NHL. So like they brought some attention towards it.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. That's really neat. And so, I mean, CrossFit it's been in the news a little bit then, right?
Yeah.
What have you heard? Like, can you help us dispel some of these maybe myths or challenges that it's had too?
We'd love to know that because I feel like whenever I've heard CrossFit, the memes I see about it, are really funny, but I think it's just more or less people maybe don't understand like actually how it works. So like explain to us like what really is CrossFit.
Yeah, it's just, I mean, the easy answer is what any CrossFit level 1 coach will tell you. It's constantly varied functional movements executed at high intensity across modal time domains. So basically it's everything. It's powerlifting, Olympic lifting, like running, any monostructural movements, gymnastics, just stuff like that, all integrated into one workout. You're doing something new every day. Like you're not doing the same thing day to day. And then just you do all kinds of different time domains. Like Fran is 21:15:9 thrusters and pull-ups. The world record for that is less than 2 minutes. So you do workouts that are less than 2 minutes. And then there's workouts like Murph, the mile run, 100 push-up, 200 pull-up, 200 push-up, 300 squat, mile run, which is for the average person about a 45-minute workout. So, I mean, you're covering everything, like you got to be proficient at everything. So you can't be really good at weightlifting and suck at gymnastics because then you won't be able to do anything.
You got to be all around for sure.
Yeah, it's creating the most well-rounded athlete that you can find, essentially.
Wow. I mean, it's always intrigued me just because I feel like I would definitely like it just because I've always been more into like the HIIT workouts, the more faster moving, because I get bored at a gym sometimes. Like I zone out and then I'm like, oh shoot, I'm supposed to be doing this workout right now. So I'm always geared towards like the ropes or just the high intensity, the ladder, the plyo, like that kind of stuff. Cool. Just because it's like I'd much rather be a more well-rounded athlete like that.
A lot of the HIIT stuff was born out of CrossFit.
Oh, I can imagine.
And like you just see it everywhere. Like there's people that are doing these workouts and they're talking crap about CrossFit, and then you're like, you may not know this, but that workout you were doing yesterday was CrossFit.
All right. So respect. Yeah, we got. Yeah. That's really neat. Yeah. What about stretching? Is that a part of the thing you do every day? And it's like on a menu, right? Like it's kind of curated for you what you're going to do today in the box/gym, I guess they call it now. I stand corrected.
Yeah. I mean, so like mobility work, stretching, stuff like that is, that's more something that people do on their own, but like a lot of coaches will be able to guide you through it. So like the way a lot of gyms work is they'll have like the workout of the day, the WOD, which is like your Metcon. So metabolic conditioning, that's where you're doing like the high intensity stuff. And then after that, they may have like accessory work, which is like kind of bodybuilding ish, or they'll have just lifting, whether it's like some squats or like the Olympic lifts, snatch and clean and jerk. That's really more so what you're going to do in like a class. For athletes, like we do that times 10 every day. So, I mean, you're beating your body up pretty good. So you gotta, when you get home, like afterwards, you're going to roll out, you're going to stretch a little bit, you're going to mobilize, do everything you can to keep your joints and everything healthy, stay mobile enough that you can get into the positions you need to get into. And then just like a lot of recovery, like everybody kind of has their own protocol, but I think at this point, if you're training hard and you don't have a protocol, you're really going to find out the hard way that you're messing up on that.
And you're probably not going to last long as an athlete too.
No, absolutely not.
and so that's kind of some of the negative press around CrossFit, right? Then like injuries that people get.
Yeah. I feel like I see a lot of people saying like, oh man, like if you do that, like you might be able to do it now, but then, in 10 years, like your body's just going to be shot. But it really does come down to that recovery and training, like as D1 athletes or whatever, like in soccer when I played, like if you're not stretching after a game or a practice, and then like, when we'd have 3 practices a day, you'd see half the guys by our 3rd practice, oh coach, I pulled my hammy or whatever. And it's like, because you're not taking the time to stretch or drink water and
it's exactly that. I mean, I know I was just at the gym right before I was here. And we had our seniors class there. They're all 70 years old and they're still moving really well. And like, that's the biggest thing. If you have a coach that teaches you proper technique and how to do everything correctly, you won't get hurt. It's the issue is there are coaches out there that either don't know what they're doing or don't care. And when you run into those, you can get hurt. Like you may be rounding your back on a deadlift and that's how you get hurt. Whereas if you have a good coach, as soon as they see it, hey, keep your back flat, don't like pinch your shoulder blades back. Don't let your back round and just stuff like that. Like if you have good coaches, you'll be safe. I would say most CrossFit gyms have good coaches, but it's unfortunately it's the few that have coaches that either don't care or just simply don't know.
Right.
That's where the injuries happen and it kind of gets a bad name because of that. But that's more rare. And it's the same thing with anything. Like you only hear the bad stuff. Like you can have 100 good stories for one thing, but you're only going to hear about the one bad one.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, there is a study done by it's listed in the National Library of Medicine that shows that CrossFit has like the same level of injury to a risk of injury than other comparable sports like Olympic weightlifting, powerlifting, gymnastics. And it's lower than that of competitive contact sports like rugby and those kinds of things. So it's just interesting that, like, now there's enough time. The study I'm looking at online right now, it also says that it was Greg Glassman in 1996 who's credited with maybe starting it. Does that sound right to you?
Yep. Greg Glassman, he's the one that he sold the company in 2020. So he founded it and 2020 is when he sold it.
And it was originally developed for military strength and conditioning training. And so then it went from military over to the civilian. So I understand why now they're like the burpees are there or like those things that you like. That's what Navy SEALs do when they're training. Yeah.
So actually the guy that I said his ranch is where they started the CrossFit Games at. He was a Navy SEAL instructor. So he was big into it. Was on the CrossFit seminar staff and
That's so cool. Well, it sounds very exciting and cool. You've told us a little bit about like what you've done, how you've gotten there, but what do you think in an internal, like look inside a little bit, what's kind of the one internal thing that you've done in your brain, your mind that really helped you go further and get you to where you are with CrossFit right now?
Wow. That's a hard one. I would just say it's recognizing what you have to do and the shift in mindset. I mean, over the last year, like mentally, I've grown a lot. Like I'm 21 years old now, so I've matured mentally and not getting down on yourself when you have a bad day of training or an event and a competition doesn't go your way. So that is a big one. But then I would say like when I was in high school, like realizing, oh, like if this is what you want to do, you got to be all in. Like you can't part-time this. This is something you got to go all in on. So I'd say like that. I would say missing the games by one spot in 2017 was like the best thing for me, because it was like, okay, like, yeah, you're good, but you can't make these little mistakes. Cause really all it was 1 second on a tie break time, not even the actual time of my workout, but the tie break time within the workout is what cost me. So it's like, if you just don't make these little mistakes, which you don't make those, the way you avoid those is by training and knowing your body in training, and then knowing how to apply that to competition. So like after 2017, like kind of realizing like you have to be diligent about your work. And that was the biggest shift for me that made the biggest difference.
Yeah. I think a lot of athletes, I mean, I know I've said this and other athletes have said it before. It's kind of sacrificing maybe other things to, you know, reach this goal or this destination. Like, you know, people don't understand that like it does take work and motivation, like in the off season. Like, yeah, you can't just say, oh, I'll be good. You know, I remember when our coach would send out like the preseason email saying, hey, preseason's coming up in like a month, like, you know, get ready. And, you know, always be like, oh, it's a month away. And it's, you know, but really mentally, like if you do want to set yourself apart, like you're always training. Like when the season's over, like when you don't win the championship or when like you fall short, you're just like, dang, like that sucks, you know, and I got to put in the work to get to where I want to be at. You know, I think that's motivation for all athletes.
Yeah.
Oh, 100%, 100%. Like for me being 21, I mean, through high school and then even now, like, you know, a lot of my friends don't do CrossFit. They don't like that, especially now that we're graduating, like they don't do a sport. So like Friday night rolls around and they're like, yo, like I want to go get some drinks, like whatever it is. Right. And it's like, they don't understand that I'm like, hey man, like I can't, you know, I got to train tomorrow morning. Like I'm in bed at 9 o'clock on Friday nights.
Right.
I'm a very, very social individual. So like for me, that's a huge sacrifice because I would love to be out there. I'd love to be having fun, but it's one or the other. You either get to go do what you want to do every time, or you want to be good. Like and it's not to say you can't be social. Like Saturday nights, like I'm down to go hang out, go have a good time, but you got to be able to say no.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And what struck me with what you said, Logan, was just that you saw what you wanted first. Like you had to identify what it was that you wanted, and then you can do all the work for it. But like you have a very clear vision, don't you, of what you want and to achieve that. So I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And to kind of go along with that, you know, with obviously your success, obviously, what do you think is the most difficult situation that you face maybe to get to where you're at?
I mean, there's not really one thing. I would say it's back to the 2017, like that was really hard.
Yeah.
Like it was hard to describe the feeling. Like we thought we did enough to make it, and then the leaderboard finalized, and seeing my name, the red line, and my name is the first one below it. It was like just crushing.
Yeah.
Just absolutely crushing. And it was like, that was hard to overcome.
For sure.
But it was a huge, huge blessing.
For sure.
And then not just that, like I would say in maybe late 2020, kind of realizing like, man, if this is really what I want to do, like I need to be around people every day that are going to push me within training.
Oh yeah.
So then kind of from then on, like just thinking like, oh man, like I might need to actually move away from home.
Right.
And go somewhere else to pursue this. Like that was hard. And then actually moving away from home was really hard. Like,
oh, I can imagine.
Got a group of friends out here that I love to death, miss them all the time, miss my family. Yeah. It's like, you know, this is temporary. Like you can only play sports for so long, you know? Yeah. So while this opportunity's here, it's like, I feel like I need to go all in and seize it, because I don't want to be 35, 40, whatever, and regret that I didn't take that opportunity.
Oh yeah. No, I completely agree. I think the 2 points that I want to make here is I've heard a lot of people, just my generation and 21 and stuff like that, talking about how like moving out of your hometown is like you just kind of have to do it in order for you to kind of appreciate what you have, but then also, you're setting your goal and your sights on what you really want in life. And I think a lot of people are just so used to just sticking to what they're comfortable with. And it's really hard for someone to break out of their shell and say, I'm going to go move to a new state. Like, yeah, it's not always practical, but at the same time, like when you're young and you are able to have that experience, I would tell anyone to do it. Like I always tell people, like literally go on a trip. Like just don't think about necessarily the money. Like if you have the resources to go on a trip and like, whether it's like with your close friend or by yourself, like you're just going to find out a lot of things about your life, about what you're grateful for. And I don't know, I've always felt like I've had these really kind of like awakenings, like when I've been driving to a certain destination, I'm just like, man, like it's really cool to see other places, that I'm not used to and get to see people that I don't know. And it's getting out of that like norm of what you're used to. And I think it's really hard for people to do that, but I think it's like essential for people to do it. Like go take the job somewhere and travel for 2 years or whatever it is. 'Cause you'll always have home. Like you will always have that home base, but like go do something new because it's going to change your mindset and it's going to change your perspective.
And especially when you're young, do it like you were saying, because it's like it is harder to do it if you're old and you haven't experienced the benefit of what travel gives you. I wonder, like growing up in a world like in social media, where social media, you think that that's travel, like because you see things, different lives, and like you think that's like you think what LA is from Kim Kardashian, and it's like it's just like actually that might translate pretty well, but for the most part, right? Like it's something that like just feeds the soul so much, and so what I mean, anything you want to share about your time in it was Philadelphia, did you say, or Pennsylvania?
Tennessee.
Tennessee. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it's just a different world there. It's in a small town, Cookeville, Tennessee. I don't call it a small town. Everybody else does, but I'm from a smaller town. So, I mean, it really all there is there to do is train and recover. So, I mean, there's amazing athletes, really amazing athletes at that gym. So you get to rub elbows with the best in the world every day. And then you go home, get ready to do it all again. So, I mean, it's perfect in the sense that it keeps you focused on what you're doing, where there's people that, like I know people that train in Miami, and I'm like, I don't think I'd be as focused there. There's people that I know that train in Vegas. I'm like, I know I wouldn't be as focused there. Like, so I mean, it's just seeing how everybody kind of operates every day. Like you got to be on level 10 on your dedication.
Oh yeah.
Like, this is what you're doing. This is what you're thinking about. And then it's not just in the gym, like in the gym, you gotta be present. You gotta be ready to push yourself farther than you wanted to push. But then once you get home, like you're not just sitting there doing whatever, you're not eating whatever you want. Like you're very regimented, and that's the thing. It's a 24/7 focus. Like you're going to bed early so you can get the most amount of sleep, like just everything like that.
Yeah. Discipline and focus. I think, like I mentioned before, it's crucial for athletes. Like I've shared on this podcast before about the time that my college team went to the national tournament, and unfortunately our school couldn't take everyone. And I was one of the people that was left behind. And that was like soul crushing to the point of like, I just wanted to quit. I was like, man, I literally played this whole season. I worked just as hard as anyone else. Like I definitely proved myself, and it just was like, oh, I guess I'm not good enough to go. And so like the next year, like, I was in a whole different mindset of like, I'm just working my butt off. And like that it was like 2 years later, we went back to the national tournament, and it was like that year I scored like my first collegiate goal, and then we ended up winning the national tournament, and it was just like the perfect Cinderella story. And I remember looking back on it and saying, like, had I quit, I never would have gotten to feel that like success and just kind of that like, I proved them wrong. Like I had a chip on my shoulder, and I've always loved kind of athletes that have that chip on their shoulder. And I think that's what dedication and the grind looks like, is you have a chip on your shoulder because you have something to prove that, like, yeah, I can sacrifice other things because I have my mindset on succeeding. So
that's really beautiful. I love it. It's always inspiring. Was there one person who in your life, Logan, really inspired you? Like Ben just inspired me.
Yeah, I mean, both of my parents, but for this instance, my dad. I mean, seeing him if he wasn't 40, he was like 39 when he started CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
So old. Oh my God.
Seeing the journey that he was able to go through, like at not a ripe young age. I mean, he's not 60, but he's no spring chicken. So see him being able to do the things he became able to do was awesome. So like that inspired me. And then just being at the gym with him every day, like seeing how he worked while he was there is like, yeah, like that's what I want to do.
He's a role model.
It just gave me something to chase and something to look out or look up at. So probably my dad.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Good one.
It is a good one. I don't think you can ever go wrong with that. But yeah, I bet, I always watched my dad, like growing up, like, he was always working hard, and I just, because of that, I think he left like a really profound, idea in this message in my head of, working hard and always kind of sticking to your guns. And in a way, like what I've experienced in my life, I've always like thought back to my dad or my parents or whatever, and thinking like, oh yeah, like, I'm just going to grind it out. I'm going to stick with this because of my dad's work ethic that he instilled into me. And I think it's really cool. Like when you can kind of follow in your parents' footsteps, in some ways. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we also love to ask this question. If you could change one thing in our world, what would it be and why?
There are a lot of things I would change in our world. But if I were to pinpoint one, I would just say, and it kind of ties in with what we've been talking, I would just more understanding of health and wellness. Just we live in such an unhealthy world right now. And I think that was shown in 2020 with COVID. Like, it shouldn't have been as bad as it was. It shouldn't have been as scary and daunting as it was. But we have a lot of unhealthy people that, it was scary for them. For people that were healthy, it's like, it's not that, it wasn't too bad for us that were healthy. Like, and then you get like, but that's the problem, is the healthy people are the minority. You know, there is a vast majority of people that are very unhealthy, and some of them don't even know it.
And if it's not physical health, it's certainly mental health. And even the physically healthy people went crazy, like, because it just for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I just say, like, introduce people to working out. Like, it doesn't have to be CrossFit. I think CrossFit's the best method that you could do just for even just day-to-day fitness. But just something, man, like, I mean, there's so many people and people I know now that, like, I played high school football with, like, whatever it was that, I mean, they don't do anything now. And I'm like, dude, like, you were a specimen in high school. What happened?
I feel like CrossFit should come out with CrossFit Light, where, like, you can just, like, go once a week and you get a little flavor of it. But I know it's like, because you really do have to kind of be all in. You join a gym monthly, right? And it's a higher than normal gym membership, maybe. Is that correct still, or is that?
It's more, but you're gonna get, like, where you go, if you go to, like, Planet Fitness or whatever, like, you're there by yourself, like,
and you're
not gonna get
for
pointers.
Right.
So, I mean, you're getting not one-on-one, but you're getting very attentive coaching at a CrossFit gym.
Okay.
And not just on your movements, they'll help you with like, most of them should be able to help you with your diet. Like, hey, do this. Just general, not just CrossFit. Like, it's everything health and wellness that you can.
They generally care for you as, like, an individual versus, like, when you walk into, big gym, it's just like, I'm just here alone. It's
and you could go into just a regular Globo gym and be deadlifting with the most god awful form, and no one's ever going to tell you.
Right.
And you'll get hurt, and then you'll go back, do it again, and get hurt again. And it's like, just in general, I just wish people knew more about, especially like what they're putting into their bodies. Because I mean, you see people eating stuff that they think is healthy, and it's like, that ain't healthy, man. Like, that's not even close. You're missing the mark by a mile right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, a lot of people don't even know, like, and they make their bodies feel terrible, but they're so used to it that they just don't know. They don't know what it's like to feel good.
Right. Yeah.
Well, we feel you on all those points related to health, how you move, what you put in your body. We'll add the air that you breathe, how you breathe it.
Yeah.
And shout out to CrossFit, because I feel like as a sport, it's really, gone through a lot. But now, like, if you're representing what it is, what a shining beacon of hope and health that, like, I think if it works for people, women and men, it's not just men doing it right anymore either. Right. Like, it kind of started that way, but it can be a fit for people. So I would say, if you like what Logan said, everyone check it out.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's learned a lot. So
yeah, most gyms, especially, I can't speak to like across the country, but it's, for the most part, most gyms will let you try it out for a week.
Okay.
Give it a week and then see if you like it. It's usually a pretty high retention rate. It sucks. It hurts. Like, it's the hardest workout you'll do, but
right
after like a week, you're like, that was actually kind of fun.
And Oxygen Plus can help you have less soreness in your muscles. Remember, 24% reduction in lactic acid if breathed during and after your exercises. So for new people starting,
for sure.
Like, get some Oxygen Plus on oxygenplus.com, and then hit the free week that Logan has guaranteed is available across.
Somewhat guaranteed.
No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. No, but you should they should ask for that. Why not?
Yeah. They should ask for it. Yeah. And then tag us in your
most gyms should be willing to work with you. Maybe it's not a week, but it's usually like 3 classes, and that's enough to get a taste.
Cool.
Yeah, for
Very
sure.
cool.
Well, where can our listeners follow you on social media and to kind of
I'm really only active on Instagram.
Okay.
I don't have TikTok. I don't have so
not yet. Or are you gonna be doing that one day?
We'll see.
Yeah.
My Instagram is _Logan Ewing _ I think.
Okay.
Sounds right.
Yep.
Cool.
Just look up Logan Ewing, and it's the guy with the CrossFit picture.
Cool.
That's really it that I do for social media.
Awesome. Well, I mean, I learned a whole lot today. I really appreciate you just opening up and just talking about your life and CrossFit and just kind of the discipline that you have. I think it's really cool just at 21 that you already have that, because I think at that time there's a lot of people that are just focused on having fun on the weekends. And then once all that passes, especially for like athletes, once they graduate and once their sport's done, realizing like, wow, I don't have a sport to go back to right now. So like staying with that discipline of keeping healthy and like finding a gym and like, just still keeping with that discipline. I think you're set up for kind of that future. And I think
you're going to have a great life, Logan. That's what we're saying.
Exactly.
You're going to crush it all the way until you're your dad's age.
Exactly.
I believe how old that will be one day.
For sure. So we really thank you for being on this podcast. And we'll look forward to following you on Instagram and just seeing everything that you're up to. And
and take us all the way to the games. Bring Oxygen Plus right along with you.
Yeah, might have to do that.
All right.
Yeah. No, for sure. We'll definitely have to do that. So
we'll go. That'd be fun too.
Oh, yeah.
We always want to go to support our athletes, and so if we can make it, we'll be there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
well, awesome.
Really appreciate it, and I think that's going to be it for us. All right.
Thanks, Logan.
Thank you.
Hey, thanks for listening to We're Not Blowing Hot Air, hosted by Lauren Karlstrom and me, Ben Johnson. Today's episode was produced by Heidi Norman and was edited and engineered by Scott Deming. Do us a solid and share, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you podcast. And follow Oxygen Plus on all social media platforms for the latest and greatest happenings at O+.